Hello, welcome to Intuitive Insights. I am your host, Megan McDonough. I am an intuitive guide and a creativity coach. And what I wanted to share today, what I hope to share on this podcast, is ways in which that you can make intuition and creativity just part of your whole self-health. I know we put a lot of energy and thought into what we eat for our bodies physically, what we study or learn for our brains. We know that community is important, having healthy friendships and relationships. That adds to our whole self-health. But sometimes we forget that we are also energetic beings. And because without the energy innately in our body, we're just a bag of cells on complex levels. So that energy is kind of like our spirits. We're like two people, one on top of the other. That's how I see it. So we're like light cloaked in skin. So what I want to talk about now is today and share. So hopefully you can take these practices, skills, ideas into your life to integrate them for supporting that energetic health, that energetic piece of self, which to me is directly related to the soul and driven by the heart. So what I wanted to share was balance. When you think of the yin-yang symbol, and how in the dark there's light, and then in the dark or the light there's dark, just a teeny weeny bit, right? On each side. That to me, and not just to me, I believe it's like scientifically proven, is a state of balance, right? Or that philosophy is well regarded as something that is very prevalent in nature. Another way to look at this is there's a book called, I believe it's called On Happiness with the Dalai Lama. And there is a chapter that in there that was very transformative to me. I loved this chapter. It was very helpful to me. The chapter was pleasure versus happiness. I'm going off on a little tangent, but I'm coming back. So pleasure versus happiness. So pleasure will feed your heart in the moment. It's like that glass of wine at the end of the day. It's just like, oh, it feels so good, right? But then in the next morning, even if it's just, well, after a certain age, if it's just one glass of wine, you're like, oh my God, I didn't sleep. I feel like crap. I'm extra tired now. Why did I have that one glass of wine? But you wanted it in the moment. You weren't thinking how it was going to make you feel like forever or the next day or what have you. Happiness is coming home from work, being exhausted, wanting something to relieve it immediately, seeking pleasure, and having the perspective that that immediate pleasure of that glass of wine is not going to serve me the next day. So you do something else, like breathing or relaxing or yoga or whatever, right? And then the next morning you feel good. And now that's consistent. That's happiness. Why I'm bringing that up is because having that perspective, that kind of 360 perspective versus that, just in the moment perspective, can change and shift our brains and our attitudes and our actions towards challenges. So I had, right now, it's feeling a little heavy to me personally, energetically. And I've spoken to this a little bit like on socials and here, that it feels just heavy. And that heaviness, to me, there is a weight with energy and emotional energy. Like joy is very light. Peace is very light. I don't know if you've ever noticed, if you were like, you go in to meditate and then, or just relax. And by the end of it, when you feel more peaceful, you also feel lighter physically, right? But fear and pain, they feel weighted. They have a weight to them. And so right now, the overall feeling around is weighted. There's a lot of fear in the air for various reasons, and not just environmental or political. We've kind of gotten away from our internal navigational source, which is our energy, which is our intuition, guided by our heart. I mean, why would we do that? We'll make it just Google Maps it, right? Or why do we need to try and guide from instinct when we have so many technological tools to just do it for us right away, you know? And that disruption from the practice of leaning on your intuition as a navigational source makes the bond weaker. So in addition to these other stressors or challenges or fears that you might be experiencing in life, self included, when we get further away from that navigational source, it feels doubly heavy. Because when we tune into the navigational source, into intuition, into soul connection, into your heart, mind, that's where peace lives. That's where the quiet lives. You know? Because at our core, when we peel everything back, or maybe this is why I love little kids and I love old people, because little kids haven't had the challenge of experiencing life's layers yet, of learning lessons, of having karmic struggles or current struggles. And they're still connected to play, right? They're still connected to curiosity. And this curiosity, play, love, joy, laughter, you know, creativity, those are all the language of the heart mind, the language of your intuition. And then when you're older, you just kind of don't have the energy to hold up all those layers anymore. So you just let them go, right? So that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is when you sit with yourself in meditation, however you choose to meditate, there's a million ways up the mountain on that. When you let everything go, which is usually what happens towards the end of meditation, whichever kind you're doing, whether it's, repetition of a mantra, japa, or an aphorism, or if you are contemplating a theory, idea or theme in your life, whether you are visualizing someone or something that brings you joy and trying to emulate that feeling and strengthen it within you, whether you're just clearing the air and focusing on the silence and the clearing, all of those avenues of meditating or trying to connect. Another way of looking at it, I like to look at it, is trying to connect with or fill up, plug into the universal energetic system to charge your system personally. Just that. So when you're done with it, there is a feeling of peace. So what is that? Where does that come from? If you would consider what your natural state is, without karmic layers, without struggles, without challenges, Would it be angry and crazy, or crazy is not the right word, but like angry or anxious, or what would it be when you're at your most content? Most likely it's peaceful, calm, grounded, satiated, content. So to me, that's an indicator that our nature is that. Our nature is that contentment, that calm, that peace. And everything else we experience is a layer on top because it's transient. It shifts. So when we meditate, or when we are trying to connect back to our intuition, to our soul self, to our eternal self, just like peeling an onion, we peel back these thin layers. And there's tons of them. Right? To get to the core, to get back to that heart center, that heart mind, to get back to the light. So here's what I want to share today. I'm a big dreamer. I think I've shared my dreams here before too. And that's part of my intuitive communication style, or my style of communicating with my intuition. I'm also very visual, and I hear things too. So there's a lot of different ways. I believe everyone's intuitive, by the way. It's just sometimes people see things a lot, or they hear things a lot, or they just dream. I feel lucky enough that I have a little bit of everything. And you can train yourself to have a little bit of everything. But the dreams were one of the first things that I noticed where my intuition was speaking to me. And there are different styles of dreams over the years I've discerned. Some psychic, some informative, like a conversation of soul and self, or you could call it like spirit guides and self. And then some are just weird, to be honest. So I've had a couple of those lately too. But what I wanted to share is that I had this beautiful dream the other night. And it was kind of a callback to the night. I'm in America, so we just had an election, if you don't know. And in the middle of the night, I went to bed before the results were in. And in the middle of the night, I had to get up. I think it was to let my cat out or something. And I saw my phone, who had won. And I was like, that can't be right. It just didn't feel right to me, because I was having this dream where there was this cross, kind of not like a Jesus cross, like a cross of light. Like it was a ball of light, but it was kind of like elongating from north, south, east, west, almost like the star, but not quite. It was like a ball of light in a cross shape. And it had an extraordinarily feminine vibe to it. Like a strong feminine vibe. And I was like, this isn't the feeling of the results that I'm seeing in the election. And I was just like, that's weird. But to get to that cross, there was like a long, dark hallway of energy, right? And then for several days, that star kept waking me up. That kind of cross star was waking me up. Like I kept seeing it a lot and feeling that energy a lot. So I wrote about it. I think I talked about it. But the dream I had the other night was, and this is what's kind of cool. And I'll bring it back to the yin yang in a minute, or the balance. So in the dream the other night, there were these tiny little cross stars of light, kind of almost like in a circle, very thin and very little. But I was seeing them everywhere. And they were in people. So I was in some weird place in this dream, but like I noticed like these stars were showing up. And it was like people all over the world. Like these stars just started, like they were baby stars and they were starting to grow, right? And they were just starting to manifest, or it's like they just got turned on or something. And it was, and the feeling I got from it to extract the message. So when you look at, for me, when I see things intuitively, it's not what logic does that make sense, because that's using the brain. The brain is good for the body, not necessarily for the intuition. It helps to translate eventually, but it's the tail end of it, translating it from emotion to meaning, instead of starting with the meaning and then going to the emotion. And what I mean by that is, so I saw these little stars in people, tiny little stars, and they were popping up all over. For some reason, this one that I'm really remembering was in like, it's like South America, like in a village. There was like a whole bunch of people. There was like a donkey. And I remember there was like some kind of tragedy happening nearby, that I saw these little stars coming out in these people, or through these people. And the emotion that it gave me is that what it was saying is like, so there was this big tragedy happening, like a natural disaster or something. And it was kind of saying like, this light in people is starting to come up. So like, it was giving me a thing of like, don't worry. It was showing me the balance. Sorry, it took me forever to get there, but it was showing me the balance and the importance of trust. Taking it back to the Dalai Lama book on happiness, I just realized that wasn't the chapter I wanted to tell you about, but that's a good chapter. The chapter I wanted to tell you about was like suffering and joy. I'll find out what it's called. But the idea is there's always a little joy in suffering because you know it's not going to last. And there's always a little pain in joy because you know it's not going to last. So when everything gets overwhelming and it starts to feel like there's only one energy prevalent in the world, which there's a lot of this one energy: fear, anger, pain. Know and remember and focus on the fact that those little starlights are in everyone. And the way we activate them is through connection, love, listening to the quiet voice, to the intuitive voice, which can be the quiet voice, could also be passionate. And the intuitive voice is devoid of fear. So if that voice brings you anxiousness or fear in any way, that is not your intuition. But do things that make your heart happy, that fill up your energetic cup, that bring you joy. Because when you have joy, you're filled with, it fills your energy. Just like meditation, like the idea of plugging into the source, just taking plug your consciousness in. That fills up your energy. And then when you have more energy, you can give more energy, and you can start to open up space to recognize that light in others. Because fear not only separates us from each other and love connects us, but fear also puts on our horse blinders. It gets us so self-involved that we're not able to perceive and be aware of how others are affected or what others may need or need help, or how, more importantly, we can connect. And the best way to fight fear is through love and connection. Always. Not easy, but there it is. Okay. Thank you for tuning in to me, with me today. I hope that gave you some inspiration and some things to think about if and when you feel overwhelmed or disconnected. Hopefully. If you would like a reading with me or intuitive coaching and guidance, you can find me at magnetizeyourlight.com. I also offer intuitive coaching plus yoga classes, and I have some online courses as well to help you ignite that connection to your spark. So, and if you have any questions, you can hit me up on socials at Magnetize Your Light. All right. Have a beautiful week. Big buckets of love. Talk to you soon.